Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Ignore the fact that my hands are a little bit green. I dyed my hair. I don't have gloves. Today we are doing my August reading wrap up. I read 16 books in the month of August, so I'm going to try to be quick about this because I have a lot of books to talk about. And I have my list of books over here to try to scurry through them because I read 10 books last month and that video was like 40 minutes long. And I read a whole 6 more books than before. And not nearly as many comic books, I don't think. So, let's go! Book number 1 I read. I'll put the covers here since there's this blank wall over here. I read Ice Planet Holiday, which is the fifth book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I read a bunch of those books last month. This book follows like 3 different girls where they're trying to bring holidays to the blue alien dude's tribe or whatever. They're like, in our planet we celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving, so like let's have a holiday, and like they're all like popping out babies and stuff. That's pretty much what the entirety of it is. That is the last book that I read of that series. I decided that I was done reading it and I moved on to other things. So that's the last of those books I'll be talking about. Ice Planet Barbarian, number 5, Ruby Diction. I gave that 2 stars. I didn't really enjoy it because it reflects back to the very first girl, Georgie, a lot, and I didn't like Georgie. I thought she was insufferable, so probably the reason why I didn't enjoy that one. I tried to close this door, but my cats are walking in and out. Moving on to book number 2, I read... Ooh. I have the physical book for this. I read The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I have an entire video of me reading the John Green books that I'm going to be talking about. If you haven't read The Fault in Our Stars, it's about 2 kids with cancer falling in love. That's like the main premise of the book. I gave this book 2 stars. Yeah, I gave this book 2 stars, which was really sad for me going back and reading this and giving it 2 stars, considering I really enjoyed it like 10 years ago when I read it the first time, but now I read through it and I thought it was really boring, and I didn't think there was a lot of substance. There wasn't really a lot of plot. It was just a lot of like just talking, and I didn't feel like there was enough character growth to warrant there not being any type of big plot that's going on besides them going to Amsterdam. So I gave this 2 stars. That was sad. If you want more of my concrete thoughts about like how I felt about the characters and stuff, I will link the video to that in the cards. Next book that I read was a comic book, Lock and Key Volume 3, Crown of Shadows by Joe Hill. Joe Hill. This comic book follows the Shadow Crown, the Crown of Shadows, and the kids have to fight like shadows that come out the wall. It was good. I rated it 4 stars. I'm enjoying those comic books. I don't really have any gripes with them. I really like the artwork. I think that they're nicely drawn and put together, and I think this one was kind of where it lost me a little bit, and I think that I like where the TV show went a little bit more, but other than that, I enjoyed it. 4 stars. Next book that I read was Looking for Alaska by John Green. Looking for Alaska is about this kid named Miles. That's his name, right? Yeah, the kid named Miles. He decides that he wants to go on search for his great perhaps because he reads these biographies of all these people. And so he ends up going to this boarding school that his dad went to try to like make memories and shit, and he falls in love with some hot bitch named Alaska. I gave this book 1 star. I didn't really enjoy this book the first time that I read it, but I decided to reread it again for the video that I did about John Green books. If you want to watch that, it'll be linked in the cards. I can put it in the description too. So I gave that book 1 star. I really didn't like Miles. I really thought that there was even less of a plot in this book than there was in The Fault in Our Stars. The entire book was just Miles pining over Alaska and thinking that he fell in love with this girl when he just like was in love with her tits the entire time. I wasn't for it. It wasn't for me. I had a hard time reading it, which was funny because I was enjoying it at the beginning more than I was enjoying The Fault in Our Stars, but my thoughts changed very quickly. Book number 5, Chase Jones is My Fake Boyfriend by Emily Lowry. This is from, I got this book from Kindle Unlimited. I gave this book 3 stars. This is, fuck, I don't remember the main girl's name. Okay, I don't remember the main girl's name in this book. I gave this book 3 stars. This book follows It's a fake dating book. If you like fake dating, it's okay. I didn't like the main girl, which I guess probably explains a lot since I can't remember what her fucking name is. But pretty much this book follows Chase Jones. He has been struggling because since he broke up with his longtime girlfriend, every girl that he's tried to date since has broke up with him 3 weeks into it, and he doesn't know why. And then the main character, the girl, I really don't remember what her fucking name is. She is obsessed with becoming a journalist, so she works for the school newspaper, and she writes, like, investigative columns. The newspaper decides to switch it, and she has to write, like, a feature article about, like, student life at school, and she purposely, like, doesn't go to sports games, doesn't do anything that involves school because she's so focused on, like, her journalism and, like, getting into the college that she wants to go to. So then her and Chase join together. Their fake dating pact is he will help her by going to parties and getting her into things that she wouldn't be able to get in because she's not popular, and she will help him figure out who is sabotaging his relationships and why girls keep breaking up with him because they'll think that they're dating. I didn't like the main girl. I thought she was really weird. She was, like, super aggressive about wanting to interview him for her article, and he was like, I don't really want to do the interview, I just kind of want to, like, be left alone. And he was actually really upset because when she first came to talk to him, he thought that he was just having, like, a normal fun conversation with a girl at a yogurt place, and then she was like, I want something from you, and he was like, oh, she just wants something from me like everybody else. And then when he finally agrees to do the interview after she stalks him for, like, a couple days and just keeps on popping up and is like, so what about the interview? So what about the interview? So what about the interview? He says, like, sure. And then she's like, I don't know why he agreed to do this interview. He's not very good at interviews. And it's like, maybe that's why he didn't agree to do the interview. You pressured him and he finally just said yes because you wouldn't leave him the fuck alone. So she was really weird. I thought it was fine. Like, they did have chemistry or whatever, and the romance was kind of cute. I liked Chase way more than I liked her. It was fine. I gave it 3 stars. Book number 6, Lock and Key, Volume 4. Key to the Kingdom. This is the second to last book in the Lock and Key comics. Overall, there's 6 of them, I think. No, 5 of them? There's 5 of them. I don't know how many of them there are, but I read that one. The Key to the Kingdom. I don't really remember much that happened to this one. What did I give it? I gave it 4 stars. The artwork I'm still enjoying. I think this one is like the Omega Key comes up, which is like a big deal. It's hard. I don't know. For some reason, it's hard for me to explain comic books. I don't know. I don't read them very often, so it's weird that I'm in this, like, new groove of reading them. But yeah, that's Volume 4 of Lock and Key. I gave it 4 stars. Moving on to book number 7 that I read, Heartless. It's the 7th? It's the 7th book in the Pretty Little Liars series. I gave this book 3 stars. I've just kind of been giving all of the Pretty Little Liars books 3 stars across the board because I've been enjoying them, but they're definitely not, like, the best thing ever. This book follows... All of the girls are dealing with everybody calling them liars because they saw Ian's dead body in the woods and then his body disappeared. And then the end of the book, Spencer's barn gets burnt down and, like, the woods behind her house get burnt down. And they find a girl that looks like Allie, but then everybody keeps on telling them that it's not Allie. And yeah, the majority of the book is just them dealing with people calling them liars because nobody can find Ian's body. And they were like, but... like, we saw his body in the woods. And then they also get arrested for obstruction of justice because Arya finds Ian's class ring in the woods and never turns it into the police and keeps it. So there's also that. So that's pretty much everything that happens in this book. Not a lot happens since it switches between each girl's point of view, and then they all kind of have to process the information their own way. Is this also the one? I think Spencer meets the woman that she thought was her real birth mom because she thought that she was adopted, and she gets scammed out of a bunch of money. Turns out the lady did give birth to her, but it was because her parents couldn't, like, her mom couldn't carry another child, so they, like, put her mom's egg and her dad's sperm together and put it in a surrogate. So, like, the lady did give birth to her, it's just not, like, her actual mom. So she is their kids. But then that's why she got left out of her grandma's will, because her grandma thought that it wasn't normal for them to use science that way to have a kid instead of just like doing it the normal way. Yeah, that's this one. I gave it 3 stars. It's okay. I'm slowly trucking through these books. I still got 8 more to go. There's 16 of them, and another one of them is on my list. So I have 8 more to go. Just slowly making my way. The next book that I read was Paper Towns. I think this is book number 8 by John Green. Again, you can watch my video if you want my full thoughts. This book, if you don't know what it's about, this book follows this guy, Quentin. He is another dude obsessed with this girl, but instead, the obsession is a little bit more understandable because she's lived across the street from him since they were like 2, so he actually knows this girl, and it's not like Looking for Alaska where he just looked at her once and then like fell in love with her. But this girl, Margot, they go on this like whirlwind adventure of a night, and then she disappears and runs away. And her parents don't feel like trying to go find her because she does it all the time, and she's 18, so they can't legally make the police go get her and bring her back because she's 18, so it's under her own free will. So Quentin takes it upon himself to follow her clues to go and find her. That's the main premise of the book. I gave this one 3 stars. This is probably the one out of all the John Green books that I enjoyed the most, because I also tried to read Abundance of Catherine, but I DNF'd that book. I couldn't stand the main character. But in Paper Towns, this one was a lot more interesting to me for a while. I was really pulled in for the first like 60% of the book, and then after that it kind of took a nosedive, and I was kind of like, oh, I feel like this could have been better if you went in a different direction. And I also couldn't really stand the main character after a certain point because he was just so obsessed with finding Margot that he felt like his friends had to like stop everything they were doing to help him find Margot. Again, watch my video about reading John Green books and you will get my full thoughts. I have like a whole 15-minute section where I talk about this book because there was just so much that I had a problem with, which is misleading because I gave it 3 stars. You would think that I would have been a lower rating, but if I'm comparing it to the rest of the books that I had read at that time and the ratings that I had given them, that was a 3-star read. That's my justification on that. Next book that I read, book number, I think we're on number 9 now, was New Moon! Look at me, a year later, finally reading the second book to the Twilight series. This is by Stephanie Meyer. I'm assuming a lot of you guys know. If you don't know the premise of this book, it's pretty much like a really bad Romeo and Juliet retelling, except Romeo's a vampire and Juliet throws herself off a cliff instead of drinking poison. I gave this book 3 stars. Yeah, so I bumped down my Twilight review, which I had given Twilight 3 stars, to 2 stars, because if I'm comparing it to this book, I enjoyed this book more than Twilight, but this isn't a 4-star read for me. Not by any means. So I bumped Twilight down, because I enjoyed it more than Twilight, but my main reason for liking this book more than I liked Twilight was because there was no Edward. 60% of the book, 70% of the book. You have Edward in the first, like, this chunk of pages, and the last, like, this chunk of pages, and all the rest of it is Bella hanging out with Jacob and considering dating Jacob and moving on from Edward. And I was like, yes, move on with the werewolf, girl! Do it! But obviously she doesn't. I've seen the movies. I know what happens. But I was really hopeful, and I also went into this thinking that Jacob just, like, had no shot at all. Mainly from, I think it's from Dylan is in Trouble, when he watched all the Twilight movies. He did like a marathon of watching them. He was like, in the book, Jacob had no chance, but like Jacob did have a chance. She had a long moment where she was like, I can just move on with Jacob. Maybe I can be happy and maybe I can love Jacob like I love Edward. Then Alice showed up and fucked everything up. This is my stance on this. If Bella wasn't going to be with Jacob, then I would want Bella to be with Alice, because it seems like Bella enjoys Alice's company a little bit more than Edward. I also still don't see the chemistry between Bella and Edward, but maybe that's just because I don't understand the whole falling in love with vampires things, because she constantly talks about it like she's cuddling up to Marble. How is that comfortable? And then I pointed out to my boyfriend, which he was like, I have no thoughts, no opinions on that. Because Bella was like, when he runs his finger up my arm, I get goosebumps. And I'm like, okay, do you get goosebumps because you like him? Or do you get goosebumps because his fingers feel like ice cubes because he's a vampire? Because I feel like it's probably because his fingers feel like ice cubes and he's running them up your arm. Anyways, I gave this book 3 stars. probably going to be my favorite one just because of all of the Bella and Jacob going on. So yeah, I read New Moon. Next book that I read, it's comic book, Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. It's been a long time since this book came out, but Rainbow Rowell was one of my favorite authors when I was in high school. I would probably still say one of my favorite authors. She wrote Eleanor and Park, which Eleanor and Park's like one of my favorite books. And then also Fangirl, and I also really love Fangirl, just because I just could relate with those two characters so much. It's probably the most that I think I've ever been able to relate to two characters. But, so I read Pumpkinheads because I know that she, like, wrote it and then the other person did the illustration. I thought it was cute. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't anything, like, amazing and, like, revolutionary. I kind of figured that they would end up together at the end, but I thought it was cute. The whole, like, going through the pumpkin patch and everything. Which is funny, because that pumpkin patch is in Omaha, and I lived in Omaha for 2 years, and I never went to it. So, I'm salty about that. Yeah, Pumpkinheads. I gave it 4 stars. I rented it. I borrowed it from my library and read it in like a night. It's like 200 pages, and comic books go by really fast because there's not nearly as many words. And you just look at the pictures and stuff. Next book, we got... Oh, actually, I own that book. Okay, this is book like number 10 or something, but I keep forgetting that I own this book. So this is By Your Side by Casey West? Yeah, by Casey West. So actually, what happened with this was I borrowed this book from my library, read the whole book, and then when I was doing my reorganization of my bookshelves, I found this book in my books because I own it, because my friend gave it to me, which was embarrassing because I borrowed it from the library thinking that I didn't own it. But this book... What did I give this book? I gave this book 4 stars. Interesting. I was on a romance kick this month. Anyways, this book follows this girl, what's her name? Autumn. This girl, Autumn, gets locked in the library over the weekend with this boy. What's the boy's name? Dax. I don't remember their names, and I gave this 4 stars. Oh god. But, so she gets locked in this library over the weekend with this guy named Dax, and they form like a little friendship or whatever, and then they have to figure out like how they're going to operate being around each other once they get out of the library. I don't really think I cared for the main character very much. I thought the little like romance between them was really cute, and that's basically mainly what I rated this off of, was the fact that I liked their chemistry, because if I went through and like was really nitpicky about it, I probably would have given it more like a 3-star, because first of all, she told her friends that she needed to pee and ran back into the library, and then they all just left without her. Second of all, they went to a bonfire before they went to the destination they were going to go to, and nobody noticed that she was there. But then the guy whose car everybody assumed that she was going to be in because her bag was in there gets in a car accident and like gets brutally hurt and everything. And so they think that she's like missing, and it's like winter time, it's snowing. They think that she might have gotten like hyperthermia or something. They think that she's missing. So nobody thinks to like call her or look for her or anything, because they think that she's missing out in the mountains and not locked in a library. But my main gripe with that is, how did your friends make it to the bonfire and spend a whole however much time at the bonfire without realizing that you were there? Like, I feel like that's some pretty shitty friends that you have. Other than that, I thought it was cute. Her and Dax have a pretty good chemistry. He seemed to understand, because she has really bad anxiety, he seemed to really understand her anxiety and didn't judge her for it or anything. And she didn't really judge him for, like, being a foster kid and everything. And then he also, because she has a really bad panic attack when they're in the library, and the only reason why she doesn't, like, pull a fire alarm to get out is because he is like staying in the library over the weekend because his foster parents kicked him out, and he doesn't want to be found, because then his foster mom will just tell the authorities that he like ran away, and then he'll get put into a group home because it was like his last strike or whatever. But then when she has a really bad panic attack and he doesn't know what to do, he pulls the fire alarm anyway, so then he gets put in a group home because he was trying to like help her, which I thought was sweet. So I gave that 4 stars. It's a cute little short read. The book's not very thick. I would have known that if I realized I had the fucking book on my bookshelf the entire time. But that's book number 10 or whatever. Next book that I read, book number 8 of the Pretty Little Liars series. I gave this book 2 stars. Right. So this book was something. This one pretty much is, the girls are like, oh my god, but we swear that we saw Allie. And like all of the doctors are like, when you inhale a bunch of smoke and you have lack of oxygen going to your brain, you hallucinate. And they're like, so you're telling me that all 4 of us hallucinated Allie being there? And the hospital is like, right. Even though I don't think it'd be possible for all 4 of them to hallucinate that Allie was there. And then Allie's family has a press conference and are like, we wanted to tell everybody that, well, first, more evidence gets put into the trial because some dude that was working in the De Laurentiis' backyard when Allie got shoved in the hole and everything, they like found pictures of Allie, of all the girls and stuff on his computer and stuff. So he was being tried for Allie's murder. But then one of the girls finds evidence that shows someone else taking pictures outside of the barn when they were there at night or whatever, and they could see the person's reflection, and it was a woman. So Arya like anonymously turns that into the police. So then the investigation kind of just gets like thrown out because they're like, well, if that's a woman taking pictures of them, then it's obviously not this grown man that we have because he doesn't have long blonde hair. So then he gets out, and so then they have a press conference because they thought that he was going to be like put away, and are like, also, we have another daughter who is Allie's twin named Courtney, and she's been in mental facilities, and she's finally ready to come home. But we thought that we would just tell everybody, so nobody's like, oh my god, Allie's alive. No, it's just her twin sister. So then the girls are like, oh my god, Allie has a twin sister. Why didn't she ever tell us about her twin sister? Then you get thrown into this whole thing where it's Courtney, and then Courtney's like, no guys, I'm Allie. I promise you, I'm Allie. That night, Courtney, she's always wanted to be me and was really unhinged and she was trying to steal my life or whatever. And the one night when you guys had met her, when you came to my house and like I befriended you, it was her. And then my mom and dad put me in the facility because they thought that I was Courtney. And when I was like, I promise you I'm Allie, they were like, okay, Courtney, because Courtney is constantly trying to be Allie. So Allie had been in the facility from like 7th grade up until now, junior year, because they thought that she was Courtney, but Courtney was Allie. It gets confusing. It's a whole, it's an evil twin thing. Then the girls start to realize that the person in the reflection of the mirror could either be Melissa or it kind of looked like Allie. And then Spencer's family finds out that Spencer's dad was cheating with Allie's mom. So then that means that Allie and Courtney are actually Spencer and Melissa's half-sisters. So then that's why she's like, oh, it could be Melissa because they all have like the same nose or some shit. And like their faces look the same or whatever. And then after some dance, Allie's like, come up to my family's cabin like old times and blah blah blah. And then you get this whole like evil speech where Allie's like, I'm actually Allie and Courtney stole my life and that's why she just stopped being friends with Riley and whatever the fuck the other girl's name is that were the mean girls, and she befriended you guys and blah 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 blah, and so I killed her and I shoved her in the hole. So then you find out that the reason why it was confirmed that Allie was in the grave was because they're twin sisters, so their DNA are the same, because is that how twins work? I don't have a twin. And then the reason why Courtney had Allie's ring that says A on it was because she was pretending to be Allie, and so Allie killed her. And then they make it out of the fire. They find Melissa there, and Ian's body is also there, so they're like, oh my god, Ian is dead. Also, she kills Jenna because Jenna is the only person that knew that she had a twin sister, and Jenna would have told everybody what was happening, so Jenna dies. Yeah, so then they think that Allie went up in flames in the house. So right now all the girls think that Allie's dead. I've started the next book. I read like the first chapter. So this is book 8 of Pretty Little Liars. Probably the longest explanation I'll give you of all these books because this was the one that hurt my brain the most because there was a lot of, no, I'm not Courtney, I'm Allie. No, I'm not Allie, I'm Courtney. And just like, okay, but who's who? Allie or Courtney? Is Courtney Allie or is Allie Courtney? Who's actually in the grave? It's Courtney, and Allie's just fucking crazy. That's Pretty Little Liars. Fuck. Okay. Next book that I read, this is book number 12. 13. Book number 13. I read The Lonely Hearts Club by Elizabeth Elberg. I read this book because it hinges a lot around the Beatles, and I like the Beatles, but I was greatly disappointed by this book. I gave this book 2 stars, right? Yes, I gave this book 2 stars. So, this book follows a girl named Penny Lane, and her family is aggressively obsessed with the Beatles because her mom and dad met when John Lennon got shot. I'm pretty sure that's what the book said. And so her and her sisters are all named after Beatles songs. So her name's Penny Lane. She has a sister named Rita. And then she has a sister named Lucy, for like Lucy in the Sky of Diamonds. And her family is like obsessed with the Beatles. So then there's this guy that she's been like as a family friend. And they finally get together, and then she finds that he cheated on her with another girl. So then she decides to form this group called the Lonely Hearts Club, where she has sworn off boys for the rest of school. She's a junior, so she's sworn off boys for the end of high school, and is just going to focus on her schoolwork, and she's going to focus on her friends, and she's not going to deal with boys. Then her, like, people start to join her club, and more girls start to join her club and swear off boys, but then she starts to get feelings for a guy, so then she has to figure out, like, how to manage this whole group of girls, but then also this guy that likes her. It was a whole thing. I was really annoyed by it because I didn't think that I was going to be annoyed by all of the Beatles references, but I was to a certain extent because there was just so much Beatles. And there's a second book that's called We Can Work It Out. I'm not going to read that one. They also don't have it at my library, but I read this one, and it wrapped up really well, so I don't really know how they got a whole other book out of it. I don't really understand the whole, like, multiple books to romance. I feel like a romance could just be, like, one book. But, anyways, basically, this club, like, takes over. There's, like, 40 girls from her school in it, and her principal is, like, upset by it. And he's like, you need to disband your club because the guys at the school are getting upset about it, and none of them have dates to the dance, and they're upset. And she's like, would you put a stop to this if this was the other way around and it was boys? And the principal, like, gets quiet. Obviously, it's, like, a sexist thing. But I'm just confused about it because I'm like, you're telling me that there's 40 girls in this club out of this entire high school, and none of the boys have dates to prom? There's only 40 boys at this school? None of them are gay? Yeah, so he was making it sound like her club was overtaking the school and all of the girls were joining it, but they said that at most there was like maybe 40 people in it, and I'm like, at my school, there were 200 people in my class alone, and didn't say that she was in a small town or anything. So I'm like, there's 200 people in my class alone, so that means that's like, there's more than 200 people. I mean, that's like over 100 and something girls, and 40 of them were in this club just out of one class? Yeah, I doubt it. And then, at the very end, I found out that this is, I guess, like a trope, and I guess I don't like the trope. It's one where I'm not only going to break up with you to get you away from me, but I'm going to insult you and hurt you to the point where it's awful, and it makes me an awful human being. Because she does this to the guy that she's interested in. She like goes off on this tangent of how like she'll never date him, and like he's seconds because he was with this other girl and all this stuff. And then that wasn't enough for it to be like a big climax. Then on top of that, they get in another argument because his friend like assaults her in the parking lot, and he like stands up for his friend because his friend's mad because she didn't want to go to a dance with him. It was completely ridiculous, and I hated it. I didn't like the main character. Let me see my Goodreads review, because I was like, what the fuck? Oh yeah, I put she was a jackass on purpose. She said it because she knew it would hurt him. She says that specifically. I said that because I knew it would hurt you. It's like, how could you forgive someone if they purposely said something because they knew it would hurt you? And then you're like, you know what, I'll date you anyways, even though you, like, insulted me in my entire being. Because, like, why not? Gross. Moving on to next book, Out of My League. I read Out of My League by Sarah Sutton. She is a author-tuber here on the platform. I found her last year. because of her she shed that she has, I love her she shed and I want it. But this book went on sale like 99 cents and I had leftover money from my Kindle Amazon gift card that I got. So I got this book. It's a book Out of My League. It's a fake dating book. I enjoy fake dating, so I'm always going to be slightly biased for fake dating books, but this book follows a girl named Sophia, and she is in the newspaper, but her newspaper gets cut from her school because of budget cuts. And so every summer there's like, you can write an article, and whoever writes the best article as a junior has the chance to get a internship at this like paper or whatever in town, but you only have a chance of getting into it if your school has a newspaper program. So she was hinging on that because she wants to be a journalist, but then since her program gets cut, she doesn't have that option anymore. So she decides to tell her teacher that she's going to write a paper, like an expose that she hopes that the teacher could take to like a school board meeting and convince them that like the paper is a good thing because like the kids are like the writing's good. So she decides to write this expose on how the school only cares about baseball and all the funding's going to baseball and they don't care about anything else. So then in comes Walsh. I forgot his name. In comes Walsh. That's an interesting name. I've never read that name in a book before and I quite enjoy it. He is the pitcher for the baseball team and also team captain. Sophia is at a party that Walsh invites her to and her boyfriend comes in and he's like been cheating on her or whatever. So then Walsh comes up and pretends like him and Sophia are a thing, and then they decide to start dating because Walsh says that it's because it would be weird if they immediately broke up when they made that whole scene and people would know it was fake, but also he's trying to get at her boyfriend because her boyfriend has like an obsession with Walsh and wants to like take him down from the team, and she needs like insider scoop for her article. She doesn't completely tell him what her article's about, she just tells him it's about baseball, so he's like, well, I'm the team captain, so I can tell you everything about baseball. And that's basically the premise. I gave this book 4 stars. I thought it was really great. Sophia had an amazing voice. Like, her voice jumped off the page like crazy, and I thought the chemistry between her and Walsh was amazing. I think it took her a little bit too long to realize that Walsh was into her, which bugged me, but I guess if you're an insecure high school girl, then maybe it would probably take a little bit longer for you to realize that a guy's into you than normal. So I let it slide. One of my biggest gropes with it, which would be a spoiler, was she finds out that everybody knew that her boyfriend was cheating on her. Walsh knew, her best friend Edith knew, like the entire school knew that her boyfriend had been cheating on her for like 2 weeks, and her best friend never told her. And her best friend's reasoning for never telling her was, I didn't know how to tell you. You've been best friends. It says they've been best friends for like 10 years. If you've been best friends for 10 years, I feel like it should be pretty easy to go, hey, I heard your boyfriend's cheating on you. Maybe you should talk to him about that or break up with him. Like, I don't feel like that's very hard. I didn't know how to tell you, so you just let her go on for 2 weeks deciding if she wanted to break up with him or not, and you kept on going, oh, you should break up with him, oh, you should break up with him. And then Sophia's like, well, I guess I wouldn't really know what I would do in that situation. I would just insist that you break up with him too. But it's like, I feel like if she would have been like, hey, you should break up with your boyfriend, I heard he's cheating on you, that might have been a little bit more leverage to get her to break up with him than just going, you should break up with your boyfriend because he's kind of scummy. So I kind of thought that was just kind of like, I wouldn't have been able to forgive somebody after that if they knew that my boyfriend had been cheating on me for 2 weeks. And then she finds out that, like, Walsh, the reason why he mainly wanted to do the fake dating was because Scott was aggressively obsessed with him, and he knew that Scott had been cheating on her, and wanted her to find out, and that's why he invited her to his, like, after school, at the end of the school year party in the first place, because he wanted her to see him with the other girl. I thought the book was really good. I heard that Sarah is planning on trying to put the rest of her books in Kindle Unlimited as like a test this month. She's going to pull them out of like widespread distribution and she's going to put them in Kindle Unlimited to see how it goes, and I'm really excited about that because I really want to read the rest of her books now. I always want to support author tubers and small self-published people. I don't really have the money to do it. So most of the time when I get their books, it's when they're on, like when they put them on sale and stuff. Like I got this one on 99-cent sale. But if they're in Kindle Unlimited, then I can read them and support them. And hopefully I enjoy them. Fingers crossed. I really liked this one. So I'm gonna hinge on the fact that I'll probably like the rest of them. Seems to be a theme for me. If I don't like one book by an author, usually I kind of don't like the rest of the books, and if I like a book by the author, I like more of their other books. So, yeah, that's my little rant about that. I don't know. Oh shit, I forgot that book's on here. Okay, second to last book that I read this month. So this is book number 15. I read Eclipse! Ha! I'm just busting through the Twilight series. Twilight Saga. I read Eclipse. I got the audiobook from my library because this book is 600 pages long. The audiobook is 16 hours. Do you know how long one of the audiobooks is for a Pretty Little Liars book? 8 hours. I listened to an audiobook on 2 times speed. That means I can finish a Pretty Little Liars audiobook in 4 hours. This on 2 times speed is the same length as what this is normal speed. Anyways, I read Eclipse. What did I give Eclipse? I gave Eclipse 2 stars. That doesn't really surprise me. I really didn't like all of the overprotective Edward bullshit and him trying to keep her from Jacob. You're not safe around the werewolves, Bella. The werewolves are gonna attack you, Bella. You're not safe around You're a fucking vampire. How many times has she almost been eaten because of you and vampire people that you know? And you think that the werewolves are the biggest thing that she's worried about? No! And Jacob's her best friend. Just let her be around him. Also, she completely admits that she's in love with Jacob, but she loves Edward more, and that's the reason why she's with Edward. That was enough for me. I don't even need to read Breaking Dawn. That's enough. She admitted she loves Jacob. I don't need to know how the rest of it ends. I'm reading Breaking Dawn right now. But I hated how overprotective Edward was and how much he would not listen to what Bella wanted. Bella didn't want to tell Charlie that she had the tickets that Esme and Carlisle got her. So what does Edward do? Edward goes and tells Charlie himself because, I don't know, he just decided that, oh, I feel like you actually wanted Charlie to know, so I'm just going to tell him myself. No, she didn't want Charlie to know. She wants to go visit Jacob. Edward rips a piece out of her car so her car won't start. She decides, oh, Edward's going on a hunting trip this weekend, so I'm going to go see Jacob. So what does Edward do? Edward bribes Alice, which then made me upset that Alice was then a part of this, bribes Alice with a Porsche to kidnap Bella for the weekend and keep her at the Cullens' house so she wouldn't go see Jacob. If the girl wants to go see the werewolf, let the girl go see the werewolf. Like, for the love of fuck. I might be biased because I don't like vampires. I did really enjoy the fact that when her and Alice go to school the next day, Jacob shows up and she turns to Mike and goes, if anybody asks, I went home with stomach flu. And he goes, fine. And then she runs and jumps on the back of Jacob's bike and, like, rides off. I thought that was funny. I think I have it marked. So, if anybody here on my channel watches Jenna Marbles, you will get this because I think it's hilarious. So there's a part at the end of chapter 5 where Bella is talking to Jacob about how she doesn't understand why Edward and Jacob have their grudges, which is because, like, one's a vampire and one's a werewolf, and werewolves are meant to kill vampires. But in her mind, they're just Jacob and Edward. She's not looking at them as a werewolf and a vampire. So she says, I don't care who's a vampire and who's a werewolf. That's irrelevant. You are Jacob and he is Edward, and I'm Bella, and nothing else matters. And then Jacob goes, but I'm a werewolf and he is a vampire. And then she goes, but I'm a Virgo. And I thought that was funny. Did I mark it? There's also another part in here that I thought was funny. Oh, when Bella is learning about, like, Rosalie, her past or whatever, which I thought was really interesting, that she's the only one who hasn't drank human blood besides Carlisle. Her record's just not quite as clean because she did kill 5 humans. She just didn't drink her blood. But I think it's badass that she stole a wedding dress and showed up at her fiance's house and he just thought she, like, came back from the dead. I thought that was funny. But when Alice met Jasper, she was at a diner that he was at and then told him about the Carlisles, and they showed up and she knew, like, everything about them and kicked Edward out of his room because his room had the best view. Okay. So, Jacob kisses Bella, which was scummy on his part because she very clearly didn't want to be kissed, and he kissed her anyway, so he pretty much assaulted her. But I thought this part was funny. So, Bella then punches Jacob in the face, and the only reason why Jacob notices that she punched him in the face is because she's crying out in pain. And she goes and punches him in the face, and he goes, "Are you alright?" And she goes, "No, damn it, you broke my hand." And he goes, "Bella, you broke your hand. Now stop dancing around and let me look at it." And then when they go back to her house, Charlie's like, "What's wrong with her?" Because she like storms past Charlie into the kitchen to get ice for her hand. And Jacob says, "She thinks she broke your hand." Charlie goes, "How did she do that?" "She hit me." "Why did she hit you?" "Because I kissed her." "Good for you, kid." Fucking Charlie. Charlie hates Edward in this like entire book, so I thought it was funny that Charlie's like rooting for Jacob in the background. And then she calls Edward, and Edward shows up because she needs Edward to come and deal with the situation now because Jacob kissed her. And Charlie goes, "Maybe you should take off, Jake." And Jake goes, "I think I'll hang around here if you don't mind." And Charlie goes, "Your funeral." And then Charlie says to Bella, "How's your hand?" And she goes, "It's swelling." And he says, maybe you should pick on people your own size." But yeah, that's Eclipse. All of my favorite parts that I highlighted are just the part with Jacob in them. I gave this 2 stars. And that's this book. Now, on to the last book that I read this month. I'm sad about this book because I didn't like it. I read The Marionettes by Katie Wismer. This book just came out this month. She's a self-published author. She put this book in Kindle Unlimited to test how Kindle Unlimited is going. And so I read it. This book follows Valerie Darkmoor. She's a blood witch, and she's going to this academy of witches, and she like finds out that there's like secrets and betrayal and stuff. I gave this book 1 star. I didn't like this book, which I feel bad about because she's a self-published author and I didn't want to give her my 1 star review, but I didn't like the book. I didn't like her book, The Anti-Virginity Pack, either, but I'm not going to go into great detail about this. I don't want to spoil it. The book literally just came out like last week. If you want to see more of like my spoilerly, I can't say that word apparently. Is that a word? I will link my Goodreads review in the description if you want to read my review about it. My biggest gripe with the book is that there were so many things left open-ended. So many like stones left turned over, no questions answered. Even like the biggest question that gets brought up at the beginning of the book, that's like, I feel like it's carried out throughout most of the book. You don't even find out who did that. I feel like the world wasn't described very well. I didn't understand how things were divided. I didn't understand what the marionettes were, and I had to read the description of the book on Goodreads to figure it out. But the book never like really explains it, but the Goodreads description explains it. And then there's just like so many things. I felt like the character was really flat. I didn't think she had a personality, and I thought that since her last name's Darkmoor, she is the last family of blood witches. So I felt like that was a cop-out, and it made it really easy to be able to make it to where she doesn't get in trouble and kicked out in the running to become a marionette because she is a Darkmoor, and there's only like 5 blood witches at the school right now. So I felt like that was a big cop-out to make her invincible, and then you don't have to worry about her being kicked out of that, and then she can go off and do all this other stuff, which bugged me. So I struggled with this one. I was going to give it 2 stars, but then I really thought about it, and I was only going to give it 2 stars because I felt bad about the fact that it was a self-published author and not because I felt like it deserved 2 stars. So I gave it my 1 star review. I wrote my review. I still feel bad about it. I just finished the book yesterday. I forgot it was on this list. I'm surprised I forgot it was on this list. I fucking finished it yesterday. It's September 1st, so I finished it literally the last day of August. So, yeah, that's the books that I read this month. I read 16 of them. If you want to follow me on Goodreads, I at least update my Goodreads after I finish a book every time, and I always rate it, and I write out my review and post it on Goodreads. And then sometimes, depending on the book, I do like updates, or as I'm like currently reading it. Usually it's when the books are super long, like the Twilight books. But yeah, my average rating for this month was 2.75 stars, so it wasn't a very good month in how well I enjoyed books, which is a bummer. I'm hoping that this month I find some more books that I really enjoy and I don't go down my path of just dealing out 2 stars. I feel like I dealt out a lot of 2 stars. And I read 4,631 pages and listened to 30 hours of audiobook. So that's fun. That's the end of this video. If you enjoy videos like these, I can link in the cards my playlist of all of my reading wrap-ups. I'm gonna try to start doing at least a book review a month too, so if there's any of these books that you want a more in-depth review on, you could tell me in the comments, and I could do a more in-depth review on them this month. Other than that, please give this video a thumbs up. Comment down below how well your reading month went. Did you have a better time finding books that you enjoyed than I did? Because I did not have a good time. And subscribe if you want to see more of my face. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!